Sometimes the river holds secrets no one dares to touch. Ethan Caldwell whispered to himself as he guided Shadow along the fog-laden banks of Clearwater River, the mist curling around their boots like smoke from an unseen fire, each step muffled by damp leaves and the soft crunch of frozen mud beneath. The early morning sun filtered through thick clouds, casting silver streaks across the water, glinting off the ice that still clung stubbornly to the edges of the river, and Ethan's eyes, gray with the weight of years spent in service and solitude, scanned the swirling currents for any sign of movement, while Shadow's amber eyes, alert and intelligent, flicked constantly from the ground to the tree-line, sensing vibrations invisible to the human ear, the dog's fur bristling with anticipation as the wind carried hints of something unusual downstream. Suddenly, a faint, desperate cry broke the quiet, sharp and thin, threading through the trees and echoing off the distant hills, and Ethan's heart tightened as he saw Margaret Holloway, frail and pale, her cane tipping dangerously on the slick riverbank, her breath ragged and hands trembling as she struggled to maintain balance. And without hesitation, he pushed forward, boots slipping in the mud, reaching her just as a small cascade of water lapped at her heels, while Shadow leapt ahead, barking softly but firmly, guiding Ethan's hands to steady her. The dog's presence both protective and instinctive, as if understanding the fragility of this moment in ways Ethan could not yet fathom. The air was thick with the scent of wet pine, iron-rich soil, and the faint tang of the river itself, all blending into a scent that told of life persisting against hardship, and Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine, a mixture of cold and awe at the quiet power surrounding them. Gently, he steadied Margaret, feeling the tension in her frail arms relax slightly under his firm but careful grip, while Shadow nudged her leg with his snout, offering reassurance in a language older than words. And as the three of them paused, Ethan's eyes caught a glimmer from beneath a tangle of roots and fallen leaves, a rusted key, small and unassuming, half buried, catching the pale light in a way that made it seem almost like a beacon. Curiosity piqued. He retrieved it and noticed a faded map partially hidden nearby, its edges frayed, symbols nearly erased by time, suggesting a hidden estate along the river, a place forgotten but alive with stories waiting to be discovered. And Ethan's pulse quickened, a sense of anticipation mingling with the morning chill, while Shadow's ears twitched and gaze locked on the path ahead, signaling the adventure and revelation that lay in wait beyond the mist. A secret that would forever change the quiet rhythm of their lives, all unfolding beneath the soft glow of the awakening sun and the gentle, persistent murmur of the river, as if the world itself was urging them onward toward what was always meant to be found. The sun had begun to rise higher, casting a soft amber glow over the river as Ethan carefully helped Margaret to a small, worn bench beneath a cluster of willow trees, the branches draping like curtains and brushing the surface of the water with a gentle whisper. Shadow sat close by, tail swishing quietly, nostrils flaring as he caught the faintest scent of something hidden upstream, the dog's body tense but composed, every muscle poised with alert awareness, and Ethan felt a calm focus settle over him as he unfolded the map, tracing the faded lines with his finger, imagining the path that might lead to the estate indicated in cryptic symbols and barely legible script, the air thick with the mingled scents of wet earth, river moss, and pine needles, carrying the memory of rain from the night before. Margaret watched him with quiet curiosity, her eyes reflecting a mix of awe and trust, while Ethan spoke softly, describing each mark on the map, each symbol and its possible meaning. Shadow tilting his head, ears pricked as if agreeing with Ethan's interpretation, the dog's amber eyes sharp with intuition, and the three of them slowly moved along the riverbank, stepping carefully over rocks slick with dew and fallen branches that creaked faintly underfoot, the water beside them reflecting the pastel colors of dawn, clouds streaked with rose and gold, and the occasional ripple of fish breaking the surface. They paused when the trail narrowed into a hidden footpath partially overgrown with ferns and brambles, Ethan brushing aside the foliage with gloved hands, Shadow leading with a light, cautious step, alert to any unusual sounds, the faint rustle of leaves carrying messages only the dog could understand, and Margaret following closely, clutching her shawl around her shoulders. The soft fabric damp from morning mist, her breath forming small clouds in the crisp air, the sound blending with the gentle gurgle of the river, the distant call of a heron, and the whisper of the wind through tall grass. As they approached a bend in the path, the silhouette of an old stone bridge appeared, partially hidden behind ivy, arches delicate yet strong, spanning a narrow section of the river that glimmered like liquid mercury in the morning light, and Ethan could feel the quiet weight of history. The sense that this place had been waiting, untouched, for someone patient enough to arrive, while Shadow's low growl and careful stance warned of a subtle shift in the air, not of danger, but of anticipation, the kind that precedes revelation. Margaret stepped carefully onto the bridge, holding the railing, her fingers brushing the weathered stone, and Ethan followed, noting the precision in Shadow's movements as the dog sniffed each step ahead, pausing to tap a paw lightly on a hidden groove in the stone, as if acknowledging a secret passage long forgotten. Beyond the bridge, the path widened slightly, opening into a clearing where a series of stone steps led down toward the riverbank. Overgrown but intact, the moss cushioning their footsteps, and Ethan, moving with the practiced rhythm of someone used to careful observation, noticed a faint shimmer along the edge of the water, the reflection catching his eye, pulling his attention to a cluster of rocks where an iron ring was embedded, almost hidden by reeds, suggesting the entrance to a small, concealed dock or landing. And Margaret's eyes widened, her expression mingling wonder and a hint of hope, while Shadow sniffed and circled, tail high, ears twitching, sensing that something remarkable lay ahead. Ethan paused for a moment, looking back at Margaret, seeing the trust and quiet strength in her gaze, then bent down to retrieve the iron ring, lifting it gently, and the metal felt solid, cold but familiar, as if it held the memory of countless hands before him, the connection between past and present almost tangible, while the river flowed steadily beside them, its song a soothing constant, guiding them onward toward the promise hidden just beyond the bend, a secret that would reveal itself in time, quietly, patiently, as they continued their walk through the awakening morning, the mist lifting slowly, sunlight warming their backs, and Shadow pacing beside Ethan, ready for whatever lay ahead. The path widened as Ethan and Margaret descended carefully toward the riverbank, each step guided by Shadow's keen instincts, his paws pressing lightly on the damp earth, ears flicking to catch the slightest hint of movement or sound, and the morning sun spilling through breaks in the trees painted patches of gold across the mossy stones and the gentle ripples of water that mirrored the sky's pale blue and soft clouds. Ethan adjusted the map in his hands, tracing the intricate lines that promised a hidden estate just beyond the bend, imagining the quiet beauty that must wait there, while Margaret, her shawl wrapped tightly against the morning chill, walked beside him with a tentative grace, her eyes reflecting the shimmer of light on the river and the subtle excitement of a secret about to be unveiled. And Shadow, never far from Ethan's side, moved with the precision and patience of a creature trained to sense the unseen, stopping occasionally to sniff the air or tap a paw on a root, as if acknowledging a landmark only he could recognize. They reached a small clearing where the river curved gently, and Ethan paused, letting the view settle over them, the soft sound of flowing water mingling with the rustle of leaves in the light breeze, the distant song of a loon echoing faintly across the water, and he noticed a worn wooden gate partially hidden behind a thicket of ivy, the hinges rusted but still intact, suggesting it had not been used for many years. And as he pushed the gate open slowly, it creaked, the sound carrying softly over the water, blending with the ambient symphony of the river and forest, while Margaret inhaled sharply, a sense of anticipation and awe in her eyes, and Ethan felt a quiet thrill in his chest at the thought of what lay beyond. The path beyond the gate led through a series of terraced steps overgrown with wildflowers and ferns, the scent of damp earth and morning dew filling the air, and Shadow moved ahead confidently, nose to the ground, guiding them toward a structure partially visible through the mist, its roof shingled with moss and walls of weathered stone that seemed to rise naturally from the landscape, blending perfectly with the riverbank and trees, as if the estate itself had grown from the earth. Ethan's hand lingered on the doorframe, feeling the cool, rough texture of stone beneath his fingers, the air heavy with the promise of discovery and the quiet power of something long hidden, and Margaret followed, pausing to touch the carved wooden door, worn smooth by decades of weather and time, her fingers tracing the curves of letters barely legible, a name long forgotten. Stepping inside, the light shifted subtly, the interior bathed in soft golden illumination filtering through small windows, dust motes dancing in the beams, and the scent of old wood and river air combined to create a sense of permanence and history, while shadows circled, sniffing, alert, yet relaxed in the presence of those he trusted. Ethan took a step further, each footfall soft on the stone floor, noticing the careful arrangement of furniture and objects as if someone had paused life in this space, the quiet stillness almost tangible, and Margaret let out a quiet gasp, eyes widening at a glimpse of a hidden staircase leading down to what appeared to be a lower chamber, the shadows curling around the edges, hinting at secrets kept safe for generations, and Ethan's pulse quickened with the anticipation of what they were about to uncover, the river outside flowing steadily, a reminder that time and nature had conspired to keep this place untouched, waiting for the right moment and the right people to reveal its story. Descending the narrow spiral staircase, Ethan felt the cool air brush against his face, carrying with it the earthy scent of damp stone and aged timber, each step resonating softly under his boots, the faint echo blending with the gentle lapping of the river outside, and Shadow padded silently beside him, nose to the ground, tail low but wagging in subtle rhythm, alert to the faintest changes in the environment. The chamber below revealed a space larger than anticipated, walls lined with shelves carved from the rock itself, holding objects that hinted at decades of careful collection and preservation. Copper pots catching stray beams of light, glass jars filled with seeds and small keepsakes, and the floor dusted with fine silt that seemed almost silver in the morning glow, reflecting fragments of sunlight from a small, high window. Margaret followed closely, her hands brushing over the cool surfaces, feeling the history embedded in each object, the faint warmth of lives lived, and memories carefully tucked away, a soft smile touching her lips as she turned to watch Ethan's careful examination of a series of letters tied with ribbon, the handwriting elegant and precise, delicate loops and lines speaking of care and intention. Shadow stopped briefly at the base of a stone arch, ears pricked, amber eyes scanning the far corner, and Ethan noticed a subtle vibration beneath his boots, a rhythm almost imperceptible, yet distinct, as though the building itself breathed, quietly, alive with the passage of time. And he pressed his palm against the stone, feeling the pulse of energy coursing through the foundation, connecting the past to the present. Lights streamed from the window, casting long, warm shafts across the room, illuminating dust motes that danced slowly in the air, creating the sensation of stepping into a space suspended between moments. And Margaret leaned against the wall, inhaling slowly, the scent of old wood and river mist mingling with the faint aroma of dried herbs from jars, a calming presence enveloping them. Ethan moved carefully, tracing his fingers over the grooves carved into the stone, noting the subtle markings that suggested a concealed compartment, and with a quiet glance toward Shadow, the dog responded instantly, nudging at a stone panel with his nose, the movement revealing a narrow, hidden passageway leading deeper, cool air escaping in faint breaths from the opening, carrying the faint fragrance of moss and mineral-rich water. Margaret's eyes widened with quiet awe as Ethan illuminated the passage with a small lantern, the light flickering gently against walls lined with intricate carvings, patterns that spoke of forgotten artistry and care, the shadows creating a dance of shapes that seemed to whisper stories of generations long past. And Shadow padded along the edge, alert and focused, guiding them toward the heart of the hidden chamber. The deeper they moved, the more the air felt charged with quiet anticipation, a sensation of discovery and reverence wrapping around them like a soft cloak, the river's distant murmur threading through the space, reminding them of the connection between the estate and the natural world surrounding it, while shafts of sunlight breaking through the upper windows painted golden patterns on the floor, illuminating details previously unseen. Ethan paused to observe a small fountain at the center of the chamber, water trickling gently, clear and cool, reflecting the light in 1,000 tiny prisms, and Margaret knelt beside it, touching the water softly, a serene smile spreading across her face as the calm energy of the space seemed to embrace them both. Shadow, sitting close, ears tilted, sensing the quiet miracle of this hidden sanctuary, each heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the flowing water and the gentle pulse of the chamber itself, a space where time, memory, and nature converged in silent harmony. As Ethan and Margaret stepped further into the hidden chamber, the gentle sound of trickling water from the fountain mingled with the distant hum of the river outside, creating a serene, almost sacred atmosphere that wrapped around them like a soft embrace. Shadow padded ahead cautiously, pausing now and then to press a paw against a stone ledge or sniff a corner, his amber eyes alert to details Ethan could not yet perceive. And the veteran felt a sense of calm determination settle over him as he explored the room, brushing dust from shelves filled with neatly arranged jars, ancient books, and carved wooden figurines that hinted at a life of careful attention and devotion, each object carrying its own quiet story and echoing the legacy of the person who had maintained this hidden estate for so long. Margaret ran her fingers over the spines of the books, the grain of the wood, and the cool surfaces of the stones, feeling a deep connection to the space and the generations it had sheltered, her breath steadying as the room seemed to envelop her in a protective hush, the sunlight filtering through small, high windows, casting patterns of light and shadow that danced slowly across the floor, illuminating motes of dust that floated like tiny stars in the air, and Ethan paused to take in the scene, noting the way the natural light highlighted the intricate carvings along the walls, the subtle textures of the stone, and the quiet dignity that the room exuded, a sense of time paused yet alive with hidden energy. Shadow barked softly, alerting them to a corner where the floor sloped gently downward, revealing the edge of a concealed door set flush with the stone, its surface almost invisible beneath a thin layer of moss. And Ethan knelt to examine the hinge, tracing the outline with his gloved fingers, feeling the cold metal and the faint vibrations beneath his palm, a rhythm that seemed to echo with the pulse of the river beyond the estate, while Margaret crouched beside him, her eyes wide with anticipation and a quiet excitement that mirrored his own. Carefully, Ethan pressed a small, worn latch, and the door creaked open to reveal a narrow passage descending into a dimly lit corridor, the air cooler here, carrying the subtle scent of earth and old wood, and the two of them moved forward with measured steps, Shadow leading with deliberate confidence, his nose twitching as he guided them deeper, the corridor winding gently toward a hidden room that promised discoveries yet to be revealed, while the soft murmur of the river provided a constant, grounding presence, a reminder of the flow of life and time outside, weaving through the stillness of this secret place. As they advanced, Ethan and Margaret noticed small, intricate carvings along the walls depicting scenes of the river, the surrounding forest, and delicate figures that seemed to watch over the space, their presence evoking a sense of reverence and continuity, connecting the present moment to a past long preserved, and every step they took was careful, respectful, and attuned to the hidden energy within the stones, the room whispering its story in subtle cues, patterns, and the gentle interplay of light and shadow. Finally, the corridor opened into a larger chamber, the ceiling vaulted and lined with beams of polished wood that reflected the lantern light, the floor smooth and cool beneath their feet, and at the center, a small, sunlit alcove revealed a chest partially concealed beneath a cloth, its presence unassuming yet commanding, as if waiting patiently for the right hands to discover it, while Shadow circled the perimeter, tail swishing and ears high, alert to every subtle movement, and Ethan approached the chest, hands steady, feeling the weight of anticipation, the quiet majesty of the hidden estate surrounding them, a place where time, care, and history had conspired to create a sanctuary of discovery, reflection, and the gentle promise of something extraordinary revealed in the stillness of the morning. Carefully lifting the cloth from the chest, Ethan revealed a collection of documents, yellowed and fragile, tied together with a faded ribbon that smelled faintly of cedar and age, each sheet adorned with handwriting precise and flowing, recording the history of the estate and the lives it had sheltered, while Shadow stood at his side, ears high and eyes alert, sniffing the air as if sensing the weight of stories contained within. The soft rustle of paper harmonizing with the distant, gentle murmur of the river beyond the windows. Margaret leaned closer, her hands hovering over the edges of the papers, tracing the lines and letters with reverent curiosity, the warm light from the high windows catching the silvery threads in her hair and casting a soft glow over her face. And Ethan felt the quiet thrill of discovery, the feeling that they had stepped into a living memory preserved through decades, a sanctuary hidden from the world, but patiently waiting for the right people to arrive. As they examined the contents, they found maps of the surrounding land, sketches of the riverbank and gardens, notes about the growth of trees and the care of wildlife, and small annotations marking secret paths and hidden nooks, each one a clue to the intention and care of the previous inhabitants, the meticulous attention to detail and respect for nature evident in every line, while Shadow pawed gently at a corner of the chest, signaling with subtle urgency, alerting Ethan to a smaller, concealed compartment within, one that required a gentle touch to reveal, and Ethan carefully lifted a thin wooden panel to find a set of keys and a small, intricately carved box, the surface smooth and cool, etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly in the morning light. Margaret's eyes widened, her expression a mixture of wonder and quiet joy, as Ethan held the keys, feeling their weight and the significance of the gesture implicit in their discovery, while Shadow sat back on his haunches, tail low but swishing gently, as though acknowledging the moment, the unspoken understanding between dog and human conveying more than words could capture. The silence in the chamber punctuated only by the distant flow of water and the soft rustle of the trees outside, which seemed to bend closer, as if listening to the unfolding story. Ethan opened the small carved box to find delicate mementos, letters tied with ribbons, and a few carefully pressed flowers, each item carrying the gentle imprint of lives once lived in this hidden sanctuary. And as he handed them to Margaret, she inhaled slowly, her fingers brushing over the textures, the fragrance of dried petals and aged paper mingling with the clean scent of the river air, creating a sense of continuity and connection that spanned generations. Stepping back, Ethan glanced around the chamber, taking in the way the light highlighted the curves of the carved stone, the smooth finish of the wooden beams, and the careful arrangement of every object. The room alive with quiet stories, while Shadow moved slowly in a circle, nose to the ground, tail swishing gently, ears twitching, ever alert to the subtle signals of the space. And together, the three of them felt the weight of history and the promise of what lay ahead, a sense of purpose and belonging settling over them. And Ethan realized that this hidden estate was not merely a place, but a gift of time, care, and trust, waiting for them to carry forward its story with the same reverence and patience that had preserved it for so many years. As they lingered in the hidden chamber, Ethan carefully set the letters and mementos back into the carved box, the soft click of the lid sounding unusually loud in the stillness, while Shadow settled beside him, head resting on his paws, amber eyes scanning the dimly lit corners with unwavering vigilance. Margaret crouched nearby, her fingers brushing lightly over the smooth stone floor, feeling the coolness beneath her palms and the lingering warmth of sunlight filtering through the high windows, casting long shadows that shifted subtly with the movement of the day, the gentle sound of the river outside threading through the room like a quiet lullaby. And Ethan breathed deeply, inhaling the mingled scents of aged wood, stone, and river mist, letting the tranquility settle over his shoulders, a rare comfort in his life that had been marked by years of unpredictability and solitude. As they began to explore the room further, Ethan noticed a narrow alcove partially obscured by a tapestry of faded greens and golds, its fabric worn but still vibrant in places. And as he moved the tapestry aside, the wall behind it revealed a series of small cubbyholes carved into the stone, each containing objects carefully preserved, small jars of seeds, delicate figurines, and tiny scrolls of parchment, the handwriting precise and deliberate, capturing moments, observations, and quiet reflections from decades past. Margaret leaned closer, her eyes tracing the inscriptions and illustrations, marveling at the attention to detail, the care taken to document the passage of time in such a hidden, private space, while Ethan crouched beside her, examining a small carved wooden figure depicting a river bending through the forest, its craftsmanship delicate and intentional, each curve and line evoking a sense of continuity, connection, and reverence for the land that surrounded them. Shadow's ears twitched as he moved toward another corner, tapping gently at a stone slab that shifted slightly under his paw, revealing a hidden compartment containing a small, intricately designed key, glinting faintly in the soft light, and Ethan picked it up carefully, feeling its weight and the subtle craftsmanship, while Margaret watched in quiet fascination, the key symbolizing not just access to a physical door, but the opening of stories, memories, and opportunities that had waited patiently for them. As they stood together, Ethan reflected on the depth of care invested in this estate, the deliberate choice to preserve, protect, and conceal, and he felt a profound respect for those who had come before, the echoes of their intentions and love for the land resonating through the walls and objects around them, while Shadow rested his head lightly against Ethan's leg, a silent reassurance, a steady presence that anchored them in the moment, and Margaret exhaled softly, absorbing the beauty, the serenity, and the quiet significance of the discovery, realizing that they were not just uncovering a hidden estate, but participating in a living history, a chain of trust and care that stretched through time, connecting the past with their present and the promise of what could unfold in the future as the river outside continued its steady, soothing flow. The morning sunlight shifted gently through the high windows, illuminating dust motes that danced lazily in the warm glow. As Ethan carefully set the small carved key back into its compartment, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment and reverence for the hidden sanctuary that had revealed itself to them, while Shadow padded around the perimeter, nose to the ground, ears flicking at subtle sounds, alert to the whispers of the chamber, and Margaret stepped forward, brushing her hand over the smooth stone walls, the intricate carvings tracing the passage of time in delicate detail, each etching telling stories of care, patience, and the enduring presence of those who had maintained this secret place for decades. The air was cool and carried the faint scent of moss, river water, and aged wood, blending with the soft warmth of sunlight to create a serene and sacred atmosphere. As Ethan guided Margaret toward a narrow staircase tucked beneath a low archway, the stone steps worn smooth by countless footsteps over the years, each one echoing softly in the stillness of the space, while Shadow led the way, Paws careful and deliberate, the dog's instincts attuned to every subtle change in the environment. As they descended, the chamber opened gradually into a lower hall, the walls lined with shelves holding small artifacts, dried flowers, and meticulously arranged papers that spoke of the lives and thoughts of those who had lived here, the quiet presence of history palpable in every corner. And Margaret's eyes softened as she traced the delicate inscriptions, feeling a deep connection to the past. The meticulous care reflected in each item, giving her a sense of peace and belonging she had not expected to find. Ethan ran a hand over a carved bench along the wall, noting the subtle grooves that suggested frequent use, and reached for a small window partially hidden behind ivy, pulling it open to let in a cool breeze from the river outside. Carrying the faint rustle of leaves and the gentle murmur of flowing water, the air fragrant with fresh pine and the earthiness of the riverbank, filling the chamber with life and calm. Shadow paused near a corner, nose twitching, tail flicking lightly as he detected a faint vibration beneath the stone floor, and Ethan knelt beside him, pressing a gloved hand to the cool surface, feeling the subtle rhythm of hidden water channels beneath, a gentle pulse that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the river outside and the quiet legacy of the estate itself, while Margaret observed, sensing the invisible thread that connected the natural world with this carefully preserved sanctuary. Stepping further, Ethan noticed a faint outline of a door almost flush with the wall, partially concealed behind a hanging tapestry depicting scenes of the river and surrounding woods, its colors muted but still telling a story of harmony and care, and he carefully shifted the fabric aside, revealing a simple latch, worn smooth from decades of use, which he lifted with deliberate caution, the door swinging open to reveal a small, sunlit chamber filled with shelves of handcrafted objects, journals, and a miniature model of the estate itself. Each element a testament to the thoughtfulness and dedication of those who had kept this place alive in secret. Margaret stepped inside, her fingers lightly brushing the items, inhaling the subtle scents of cedar, dried herbs, and river air, while Ethan examined a set of folded maps, their edges frayed but the lines still precise, revealing hidden paths, gardens, and vantage points that spoke to the intentional care of the land and its secrets. And Shadow circled quietly, alert and attentive, the dog's presence both grounding and protective as they absorbed the quiet magic of this hidden world. The flowing river beyond, sunlight streaming through high windows, and the hushed reverence of decades converging into a single, profound moment of discovery and connection. As the sunlight shifted to a softer afternoon glow, Ethan stood near the doorway of the hidden chamber, taking in the delicate balance of shadows and light playing across the stone walls and polished wooden beams, while Shadow rested at his side, ears flicking occasionally at the faintest sounds of water flowing through the estate's channels, and Margaret lingered nearby, her fingers tracing the carved edges of a small shelf, the smooth surface warming under her touch as she absorbed the stories preserved in each artifact and letter. The gentle hum of the river outside intertwined with the subtle rustle of leaves from the surrounding trees, creating a rhythm that seemed to echo through the entire estate, grounding them in the present while connecting them to generations past. And Ethan felt the quiet weight of discovery settle over him, a sense of awe and responsibility intertwining as he considered the trust bestowed upon them by those who had maintained this sanctuary in secret. Margaret carefully opened a worn journal, the pages brittle but legible, revealing notes on garden layouts, planting cycles, and the care of the riverbank, her eyes lighting up as she read, understanding the thoughtfulness and dedication behind every detail, while Ethan observed, noting the subtle interplay between human effort and natural beauty, the way each decision preserved harmony with the surrounding environment. And Shadow nosed a small pile of folded cloths beside the journal, prompting Ethan to lift them and reveal a tiny, intricately carved box containing letters and photographs, the delicate ink and muted colors capturing moments frozen in time, each telling a story of patience, love, and care. The three of them moved slowly through the room, each step deliberate, ears attuned to the gentle creaks of the wooden floor and the soft breeze wafting through small openings in the walls, carrying scents of river moss, aged timber, and sun-warmed stone, while the ambient light painted soft patterns across the floor, highlighting dust motes that floated like tiny stars in the serene space. And Ethan felt a profound connection to the history embedded in the estate, a realization that their presence here was not merely chance, but part of a continuum, a passing of guardianship from one generation to the next. Margaret gently placed a photograph back into the box, the image of the estate in winter, snow covering the roof and frozen river glinting in pale light, evoking a quiet smile and a whispered thought of gratitude, while Ethan adjusted the lantern, casting a warm glow over the entire room and accentuating the textures and colors of the carefully preserved objects, each one a testament to the lives lived and the care given to this hidden place. Shadow shifted slightly, tilting his head, alert to subtle movements in the chamber, and Ethan followed his gaze to a narrow stairwell leading upward, realizing that this estate held further secrets, spaces not yet revealed, areas still echoing with the past. And Margaret nodded, sensing the anticipation and promise of what lay beyond, the river's steady murmur outside providing a constant, calming presence as they prepared to explore the upper levels, the entire estate resonating with the quiet power of history, nature, and human devotion intertwined. Each step forward a continuation of a story that had waited patiently to be discovered and honored by those who understood its value and beauty. And together they felt the weight and gift of the place, a sense of belonging and purpose settling over them as the light shifted and the river flowed calmly just beyond the walls. The upper stairway opened into a bright chamber where sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating the dust that floated in lazy motes, catching on the edges of the carved wooden beams and the textured stone walls, while Ethan stepped forward carefully, boots soft against the smooth floor, tracing the outlines of furniture arranged with meticulous care, and Shadow moved alongside him, head low and tail relaxed but alert, sniffing the air and pausing occasionally to paw at a spot that seemed significant, his amber eyes bright with awareness. Margaret followed, her hand brushing along a polished banister, feeling the warmth of the sun and the coolness of the stone, a quiet smile spreading as she took in the subtle details of the space. The gentle scent of aged wood mingling with faint notes of river air drifting through slightly open windows, creating a serene, almost sacred atmosphere. As Ethan explored, he discovered a series of small alcoves along the walls, each containing objects preserved with care, pressed flowers, handwritten journals, miniature carvings, and tiny trinkets that hinted at the daily lives of those who had once lived here, their presence a reminder of the thoughtful stewardship and reverence that had protected this hidden estate for generations. And Margaret leaned closer, her eyes tracing the delicate etchings and faded ink, absorbing the stories embedded in the quiet objects. Shadow paused at the edge of the room, ears flicking toward a subtle sound, a faint vibration from the floor that seemed almost imperceptible, and Ethan approached, placing a hand on the stone surface to feel the subtle pulse beneath, a gentle rhythm connecting the building to the river outside and to the legacy preserved within its walls, a hidden heartbeat that had waited patiently for them to arrive. Together, they moved toward a small writing desk bathed in light, the surface scattered with carefully folded papers, maps, and notes, the texture of the parchment soft beneath their fingers, revealing sketches of gardens, river pathways, and hidden nooks, annotations marking places of interest that had been maintained over decades, each line and symbol speaking of careful planning, observation, and the desire to preserve beauty and harmony. Margaret unfolded a delicate letter tied with ribbon, her eyes widening as she read the carefully penned words, filled with reflections on the river, the forest, and the thoughtful tending of the estate. And Ethan watched, sensing the quiet power of the space and the connection it fostered between past and present, while Shadow circled, alert and attentive, his presence reassuring, the soft patting of his paws on the floor adding a subtle rhythm to the room. They moved slowly through the chamber, noticing the interplay of light and shadow, the way sunlight highlighted carvings, the curves of stone, and the smooth edges of wood, revealing details previously unnoticed, each one a testament to the dedication and patience of those who had maintained this sanctuary. The sound of the river outside provided a steady, calming backdrop, a reminder of the constancy of nature, while inside, the echoes of the past mingled with the present, creating a space of reflection and awe, a quiet invitation to absorb the lessons embedded in every object, every line, and every carved detail. A sense of wonder and reverence settling over Ethan and Margaret as they prepared to uncover the final secrets that this hidden estate had carefully preserved, the quiet magic of the place resonating deeply within them both, Shadow resting at Ethan's side, eyes bright and attentive, as if acknowledging the significance of the moment, the estate's legacy gently embracing those who had discovered it. Margaret stepped closer to Ethan, her fingers brushing over the delicate surface of a small wooden box that had remained untouched for decades, the grain smooth under her fingertips, and warm from the filtered sunlight streaming through the tall windows, while Shadow sat obediently at Ethan's side, ears alert and tail low but swishing gently, as if sensing the significance of the moment. Ethan carefully lifted the lid of the box to reveal a set of keys and a collection of handwritten letters, their edges frayed and ink faded slightly with time, each page filled with meticulous notes, reflections on the river and the surrounding land, and sketches that captured the estate in quiet, detailed observations, the careful arrangement of objects suggesting a life of thoughtful guardianship and deep connection to the natural world. And Margaret's eyes widened as she read through the letters, feeling a sense of wonder and reverence for the careful preservation of this hidden place. While Ethan traced his fingers over the sketches, noting paths, hidden alcoves, and the subtle details that hinted at the deliberate harmony maintained within the estate, Shadow nudged gently at a corner of the box with his nose, prompting Ethan to examine a small compartment beneath the papers, where they discovered a narrow key, its metal cool and slightly worn, engraved with delicate symbols that seemed almost to shimmer in the morning light, a tangible link between the past and the present, carrying with it the promise of further discovery. And Margaret smiled softly, understanding that this key unlocked more than a door, but access to memories, intentions, and the quiet care of generations that had tended this sanctuary. Together they moved toward the corresponding door, a sturdy oak panel inset into the stone wall, its surface etched with simple yet elegant designs, and Ethan inserted the key with deliberate care, the lock clicking gently as the mechanism released, swinging open to reveal a small, sunlit room filled with shelves of neatly arranged objects, miniature carved figurines, pressed flowers, journals, and carefully folded maps, each item radiating a sense of purpose, preservation, and reverence for the natural world and the estate itself. The soft murmur of the river outside threading through the open window and blending with the gentle rustle of leaves to create a serene, almost sacred soundtrack to their discovery. Margaret knelt beside the shelves, lifting a small bundle of papers tied with ribbon, inhaling the faint, comforting scent of cedar and aged ink, while Ethan examined the maps, noting the meticulous annotations marking hidden pathways, garden layouts, and vantage points, every detail reflecting the careful thought and attention of the people who had maintained this estate. Shadow pacing slowly in the room, occasionally pausing to sniff or paw at subtle hints in the floor or walls, as though understanding the importance of their exploration. The sunlight shifted across the room, illuminating dust motes that floated lazily in the golden beams, highlighting carvings and textures on the walls, shelves, and furniture, creating an atmosphere of timelessness and quiet reflection, as Ethan and Margaret absorbed the careful preservation and subtle beauty of the space, understanding that their presence here was not only discovery, but a continuation of a legacy, a moment where past, present, and nature intertwined. The river outside providing a constant reminder of the enduring, gentle flow of time, and Shadow resting his head lightly against Ethan's leg, eyes bright and attentive, lending quiet companionship and affirmation as they prepared to explore the remaining mysteries of this hidden sanctuary. The serene ambience of the estate embracing them, and the weight of responsibility and wonder settling gently upon their shoulders. The afternoon light filtered through the tall windows, warming the stone floors and highlighting the intricate details of the carved wooden beams, while Ethan moved carefully among the shelves, gently touching the edges of journals, maps, and small trinkets, each item imbued with the quiet care of generations past. And Shadow followed closely, patting softly on the floor, tail low and ears flicking toward every subtle sound in the chamber. Alert to the energy that lingered in the room, Margaret lingered by a sunbeam that fell across a small table, her hand brushing over the worn surface, feeling the smooth grain of the wood and the faint warmth lingering from the morning sun, and she let out a quiet breath, the sense of serenity and reverence settling over her as she took in the delicate arrangement of objects, the careful preservation of letters, pressed flowers, and sketches capturing the estate and surrounding river, each telling stories of thoughtful guardianship and attention to detail. Ethan opened a large, faded map, its surface lined with fine notes and annotations indicating paths, hidden gardens, and vantage points, and Margaret knelt beside him, tracing her fingers lightly over the lines, imagining the care that had been taken to maintain these spaces over decades, the scent of aged paper mixing with the soft river air drifting through the open windows, carrying hints of pine, wet earth, and subtle notes of wildflowers from the gardens outside, creating an atmosphere of calm and reflection. Shadow paused near a corner, ears pricked, tail flicking lightly, as though sensing a subtle change in the air, and Ethan followed his gaze to a small, partially concealed cabinet tucked behind a curtain, the edges of the door worn smooth from years of handling. And as he opened it, a soft creak echoed faintly, revealing another collection of carefully preserved objects, including hand-carved figurines, jars of seeds, and miniature tools, each one representing a piece of the estate's history, the quiet presence of the past enveloping them, inviting reverence and careful observation. Margaret carefully lifted a small bundle of letters tied with ribbon, inhaling the faint scent of cedar and ink, and Ethan examined a series of delicate notes describing the river, the gardens, and the surrounding forest, each word conveying attention, patience, and love for this hidden sanctuary, while Shadow moved slowly in circles, sniffing and nudging with his nose at areas of interest, guiding them with his quiet, intuitive understanding of the space. Sunlight shifted through the windows, highlighting the carvings on the walls and the smooth surfaces of the shelves, casting long, gentle shadows that danced across the floor, and Ethan and Margaret moved slowly, absorbing every detail, every nuance, the way light and texture, sound and scent combined to create an atmosphere of calm and reverence. The soft murmur of the river outside threading through the estate and harmonizing with the subtle vibrations beneath the stone floor, the energy of past caretakers still present in every corner. Together they explored the chamber, the quiet of the space enveloping them, connecting past and present. The meticulous preservation of objects and spaces conveying a profound sense of trust and continuity, and Ethan felt the weight and significance of their discovery. Understanding that this estate was more than a place, it was a living memory, a sanctuary of patience, care, and quiet miracles, while Shadow lay close at his side, attentive, and Margaret's gaze lingered on the treasures they uncovered. Feeling a deep sense of gratitude and wonder, the river outside flowing steadily as if in quiet approval, the space around them echoing with the gentle, enduring presence of those who had preserved this hidden estate for generations. As the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, casting long golden beams through the tall windows of the hidden estate, Ethan and Margaret stood together near the river-facing balcony, the soft murmur of the water below harmonizing with the distant rustle of leaves in the surrounding trees, creating a serene symphony of nature that seemed to bless the moment with quiet approval. Shadow rested at Ethan's feet, his head lifted occasionally to sniff the evening air, tail swishing gently as if sensing the culmination of the journey and the discovery of the hidden sanctuary, while Ethan's hands rested lightly on the carved railing, tracing the smooth contours worn by time. Feeling a profound connection to the generations that had maintained this estate and the trust implicit in their careful preservation, Margaret leaned beside him, inhaling the fresh, earthy scent of the river mingled with the faint aroma of aged wood and sun-warmed stone, her eyes soft and reflective, taking in the sweeping view of the river bending gently through the forest, the sunlight glinting on the water in scattered diamonds, while the estate itself, perched above the banks, stood in quiet dignity, every stone and beam a testament to the patient care and devotion of those who had hidden it from the world. Ethan and Margaret moved slowly through the upper rooms one final time, pausing to touch the smooth spines of journals, the delicate edges of maps, and the carefully preserved objects that spoke of lives lived with intention and love, each artifact a silent witness to the centuries of quiet guardianship. And Shadow padded beside them, attentive, nose occasionally brushing the floor, tail low but swaying in rhythm with the calm energy of the estate, signaling that he too understood the importance of this final exploration. The soft light shifted as clouds drifted across the sky, casting subtle shadows that moved like living patterns over carved wood, stone floors, and the shelves filled with mementos, creating a gentle interplay of illumination and quiet reverence. And Ethan paused to notice how the river's reflection flickered across the walls, tying the natural world into the narrative of the estate itself, the place seeming to breathe in synchrony with the river and forest beyond. Margaret set down a bundle of letters and photographs, her fingers lingering over the delicate textures, the faint scent of ink and pressed flowers mingling with the river air, and Ethan gently placed a hand on her shoulder, sharing a quiet smile of mutual understanding, the weight of discovery, gratitude, and responsibility settling over them, as if the estate itself acknowledged their presence and the respect they brought. Shadow nudged gently at Ethan's leg, prompting him to turn and look toward the balcony once more, the light now soft and amber, the trees outlined in delicate silhouette against the fading sky, and together they stepped outside, inhaling the cool, clean air, the gentle lap of water against the riverbank below punctuating the quiet serenity of the moment. As they stood there, side by side, the subtle sounds of nature enveloping them, Ethan felt a profound sense of purpose and belonging. The knowledge that the care and dedication of past generations had been entrusted to hands that would honor it, while Margaret's gaze lingered on the horizon, absorbing the beauty, calm, and quiet miracle of the discovery, and Shadow rested his head against Ethan's leg, eyes half closed in contentment. The three of them united in the stillness and blessing of the hidden estate, a sanctuary preserved and finally shared, the river flowing steadily below, carrying with it the gentle, enduring promise of patience, kindness, and the quiet return of goodness in the world.